Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary.
I'm Nick.
And today, Spider-Man is in the air.
That's right.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Is that the one?
It sure is.
Just came out.
Yep.
I saw it.
I did too.
Loved it.
Yeah, it was
Thought
really
it was
good.
really great. And in the spirit of all things Spider-Man, we decided that today we're going to talk about the Marvel event, Dark Web.
Ooh,
Dark Web.
Yes.
We got some info on that?
Yes, we do. So Dark Web is a massive crossover featuring issues from, well, as we learned talking about this, reading it in print and reading it on the Marvel app is a different experience.
Completely different experience.
But it features issues from X-Men, Ms. Marvel, Venom, and Spider-Man, though you reading it on the app, you also read issues of Mary Jane and Black Cat, Gold Goblin.
Yeah, I read, the app has a nice little primer that kind of like takes you through everything that remotely connects to the storyline. And so, yeah, I read like all across. It was a weird journey into the world of Marvel.
Yeah.
Things that I'd never had any idea about. So.
Yeah, you know, in the X-Men and Spider-Man, I mean, certainly have crossovers from time to time, but I can't think of one that was ever this big and this, like, encompassing so much of Spider-Man lore with X-Men. It was an interesting...
Yeah, it was a really tight... I mean, it wasn't just like the X-Men in a Spider-Man thing or a Spider-Man in the X-Men thing. It was like all of their... The way that I got into this, I was reading New Mutants.
Yes, okay.
So New Mutants, I was just trucking along, having a nice time. And then what happens is Illyana, who is the Queen of Limbo...
Of course.
Decides she doesn't want to mess with Limbo anymore. She's moving on. Okay. She's growing as a person. She wants to devote her attention to Krakoa and the young people of Krakoa. It's beautiful.
Right.
And so she decides that she's going to abdicate and she wants to put someone else on the throne. And she decides on the recently resurrected Madeline Pryor.
Who could be more stable than Madeline Pryor?
Yes, it's not like she has any history specifically with Limbo.
No.
That would be problematic in any way.
Why would it be? Why would it be a problem?
Why would it be? So there's lots of stuff about Madeline that I actually didn't really know about that's like really related to Illyana. But the point is she gets placed. She's the queen of Limbo now.
Yes, that's crucial.
The X-Men aren't super on board with this.
No.
Because of her history. Yeah. Because she's like used demons before to try to like take over the earth.
Right.
And like, you know, she's unstable because of what people did to her, but still unstable.
Yes.
But Illyana's like, no, she's changed. She's going to do this. And this is the last that I hear of this until Dark Web.
Until Dark Web. Okay.
So it's all Illyana being like, I believe in her. She's different now. And like somebody went to bat for her because she wasn't. Okay.
It's a lot.
So on Krakoa,
that's a lot. Okay, yeah.
They can resurrect mutants now.
Right.
So like there's no such thing as dying as a mutant anymore because they have like a team of people who make new bodies for the mutants and Cerebro holds their like minds or whatever. And so like someone dies and they vote or whatever. Like there's a process, but then they get resurrected basically. Okay. Just like their brain from Cerebro put in a new body. There's a whole thing in New Mutants about how it's been this like inequitable thing where like certain mutants just automatically get resurrected and other ones, such as specifically clones, are not obviously resurrected.
So it's like a loophole.
Yeah.
It's like,
So this leads into Dark Web. So that's the whole thing on the mutant side.
Okay.
That we're just now, like the mutants on Krakoa are like, yes, we need to be better about how we deal specifically with clones.
Yes, it's so specific, but yes.
Specifically with clones. Because, I mean, Madeline is one that they end up resurrecting, but it comes into play because of, what's her face? One of the Wolverine clones. Because Wolverine apparently has like 4 clones.
There's a lot of clones running around these days. Yeah, that's true.
Because there's Laura, who I knew about.
Of course. X-23. We just did an
X-23.
episode. Yeah.
But there's also a younger clone
Yeah.
who considers Laura her sister. They have some sort of a relationship. Yeah. And then there's a man. There's like a teenage man guy who's also a clone. I don't know. It's like a family. There's a whole family. And then there's the actual Wolverine, remember?
Yeah.
Anyway. The little girl clone of Wolverine is sort of the catalyst.
There's so much backstory.
I'm sorry. I didn't intend to go into all of this.
Bring it on.
The little girl clone, I can't remember her name, of Wolverine is the catalyst for them all rethinking this whole clone
do we
situation.
do this? Okay.
Because there's a whole drama about her and her friends who are all young kids, so they aren't super they just kind of get wrapped up in assumptions and things.
Yeah.
And they all assume because she's a clone, she's not going to be resurrected if she dies.
Right.
Because nobody has said that she will.
Right.
Then it turns out that all the adults have just been assuming that, of course, if she died, they would. And then that causes them to examine their previous interactions with clones, because how come we automatically will resurrect her, but we didn't even consider resurrecting, say, Madeline Pryor, because she's a clone of Jean.
Right.
Ooh. So this is where New Mutants leads into Dark Web.
Okay.
So Madeline Pryor, who has all kinds of psychological baggage about just from her initially being a clone of Jean Grey.
Yeah.
And, having been manipulated into having this baby, and then she doesn't even get to raise the baby. Jean gets to raise the baby. Why is she so upset?
From a writing standpoint, they did Madeline dirty, from the beginning.
Oh, yes.
From the beginning. I mean, that's like a legendary mess up, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, she was always treated, and I think from the writers did did the abuse because she was treated as a tool. And now looking back, we're letting the character see that. Yeah. Which is interesting.
It is. So I haven't read any of the New Mutants, but I did read Hellions, which is kind of concurrent with that. And there is some...
Hellions is so weird now.
It is. No, it is really weird. But it's fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of stuff with the Madeline Havoc relationship that's in
that I have not seen very much of. So that would I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, I think you'd like Hellions. Well, it's just they have this history and it's just so messy, because Alex is Scott's brother, obviously, and it's just she's the clone of his sister-in-law. It's just really messy, and so their relationship is fraught, but also kind of deep, and so it's just it's an interesting thing to navigate. The thing that's funny to me about this crossover is that I feel like what happened was they were like, boy, Jean sure has a messy clone. You know who else has a messy clone? Yes. Peter Parker.
Yes, that is exactly
that's it. Because so I've read all the Spider-Man stuff leading up to this. And how familiar are you with the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider
Not
character?
At all. This is the experience that I have with Ben Reilly.
Really?
Did not know he existed until I started reading these.
Well, I mean, you've heard the clone saga and how people hate the clone. You never even heard that phrase? The clone? Oh.
Listen, I have not read, I don't think that I have read a single Spider-Man comic. Ever until this moment. So Tobey Maguire is what I know about Spider-Man.
That's embarrassing. So
I'm serious.
So forever ago, there was this whole thing where there's a clone of Peter, and we think we have the whole thing resolved, and then we go through a year of stories, and the big reveal is, no, we were wrong. We've been following the clone this whole time, and it's here's the actual Peter Parker. So Peter has to
where's Peter been?
Just off being Ben Reilly, being eking out an existence as a clone of Peter Parker.
Because
they share the memories, and so they think well, this is the real one and you're the clone, but that's not true.
Well, how can you find that out?
There's a whole thing where when they die, a clone turns to dust or something. I don't know. It was
science.
Doesn't matter. But that's kind of what it was, and people were well, we hate this. We've been following the wrong character all this time, and now you're trying to pull the old switcheroo.
But sort of the right character, because they have the same memories.
I know. So Ben Reilly though has kind of persisted as a character. In the 90s, there was a really popular Scarlet Spider. I'm sure you've seen him. He's got an all red jumpsuit and kind of a cut-off hoodie for the top of the costume. No, nothing? Okay. J.M. DeMatteis, who you had on the show, was writing a Scarlet Spider Ben Reilly series at our time of recording. So he's been a character that's persisted, and he kind of comes back, and he's usually a Spider-Man ally. But what happens in this whole thing, here's a lot of backstory as well. There's a whole arc called Superior Spider-Man where Doc Ock takes over Peter's life, and Doc Ock is living in Peter's body and living as Peter Parker, and he thinks this is permanent. So
how much time are we talking here?
A lot.
Years?
Probably not years, but probably a year. I mean, it's a lot of time where Doc Ock is the Spider-Man who is in the Marvel Universe.
And that's just a thing that happened.
Yeah, it's a thing that happened.
And he's just, I guess I'm Spider-Man now.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of his plan because he's dying, and so he takes Peter's body, and so you kind of see Peter in sort of a phantom, trying to make like not let Doc Ock be evil and stuff like that. And Doc Ock, to his credit, is kind of like, well, if I'm Spider-Man, I guess I better do it. So he's like, he finishes Peter's like doctoral thesis and like it gets him all this money, like starts this company, and then you get like the whole Spider-Man worldwide arc and everything. One of the things he does there is monetize Spider-Man, and he like sells the trademark of Spider-Man. Okay, so just go with me.
Okay.
So then this company who owns the rights to Spider-Man is like, well, we want to have our own Spider-Man, and so they call up old Ben Reilly, and they're like, we want you to be like our Spider-Man for hire. And then something happens to Peter, and he's, like, taken out. He's, like, in the hospital. And so Ben becomes, like, sort of the one and only Spider-Man again.
So, hang on. This company buys the rights to Spider-Man.
Yeah, like the trademarked image and everything.
But Peter is still Spider-Man?
Peter comes back after the whole Doc Ock thing. Okay? But all this stuff has already happened. Like, Peter gets back into his own body.
Okay.
But he just has to deal with the fact that Doc Ock has done all these things in his life. And Peter's trying to, like, get things back to normal. But the rights to Spider-Man have been
So he's
sold.
not going to be Spider-Man, while the rights to Spider-Man
Well, he is. Though he is being Spider-Man, but they keep being like, you better stop, because we own Spider-Man. Anyway. So Ben Reilly is Spider-Man, and then Peter is taken out of commission, so he really is, like, the only Spider-Man. And he has a lot of, like, weird conflicts, like, conflicting feelings about that, because he's like, I mean, these are my memories. Like, I am Peter Parker in a way. And now he's getting a chance to kind of be, like, legit. But the company is, like, messing with his mind. Like, they're suppressing certain memories, and they're, like, messing with him. And so when Peter comes back, and there's a whole big confrontation, and Ben's perspective is that Peter, rather than, like, sharing or helping him, tries to, like, rub him out. Tries to erase his memories. And so Ben,
he doesn't know that the company's doing this to him?
Well, he does at one point, but then he kind of doesn't anymore because his brain is being messed with.
Okay.
So then he's like, you know what? Forget it. I don't have really my memories anymore. He doesn't really remember much that's going on. He just knows I have spider powers. Peter bad. And then he becomes Chasm, who is the villain that we see in Dark Web. So that's
Chasm is a villain?
Yeah, I mean,
starting out?
Well, it's just Ben Reilly, and he's kind of reborn as Chasm, and then the first thing you really see with that is Dark Web. So,
okay.
Yeah, so you're pretty much right there.
So we're caught up to Dark Web.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's where the difference in reading order starts to come into play.
Yes.
Because when you start Dark Web, you're starting with Dark Web #1.
Well, technically, I'm starting with Free Comic Book Day, Spider-Man Venom, where That's just one issue? It's just one issue, and it's basically these, like, whatever we want to call them, demons or phantoms or whatever from Limbo are infecting the world, and Peter sees it, and we get this sort of, like, reveal of Chasm and Madeline Pryor being like, we're going to make a good team, and it's like, bum, bum, bum. So that's how the trade collection starts.
Okay.
But the main difference between how I read it and how you read it is the app sets it up in a chronological order. And when you read it in the trade, it has sort of a web in the beginning where it's like here to here to here to here to here, or just read it by series. And so it's set up so you read all the Spider-Man, all the X-Men, all the Venom, all the Ms. Marvel.
I feel like that would be so confusing.
Well, it is and it isn't. Like, I think, just like talking off mic, it seems like I liked this better than you did.
Yeah.
And I sort of wonder if it's because of that. Like, because of the way that it was. Because things would happen, and I'd sort of be like, what? Why is this person good now? Like, why is this person working with them? And then I would go back and I would read all the X-Men stuff and be like, oh
yeah.
And it also, like, the X-Men segment of this, I feel like is the strongest. Like, the 3 issues that are just X-Men, I think is the best part of the story. And I read those unbroken. So that's like a really strong section.
That makes sense, because the feel of it as I read it was, I mean, like, I feel like I got a good sense of the storyline and how it all connects together.
Yeah.
But as just a reading experience, it wasn't very enjoyable.
Yeah.
And that does make sense, because I was doing, like, an issue of Venom, an issue of Ms. Marvel, and like, so there wasn't, like, a coherent collection of what is happening to this specific character.
Yeah. I mean, the basic premise is that Chasm and Madeline Pryor team up, and Chasm is going to, get his take over.
This is something that you didn't read.
Okay.
So, I started with Venom number 13, which was an interesting place to start, because I literally know nothing about Venom.
Okay.
Like I know he's a symbiote.
Right.
And that sometimes it's a funny, like sometimes he's like villain, but not, and all that stuff.
He's been pretty strongly like almost just a straight up hero for a while. Like almost not even an anti-hero. Like just hardcore, but pretty heroic.
So where we land in Venom number 14, which is 13 just starting right in there, is Eddie is in some place. It's a garden.
Okay.
Where evidently, what I have gathered, you don't know initially, unless I guess you've read the whole thing. He's there, and it's like a place filled with venoms from other times in his entire lifespan.
Okay.
And they're all sort of like fighting each other, but sort of working together. And there's one like final Eddie from like way in the future who like is orchestrating this whole thing. And it's bananas.
Okay.
But I think the main point of the Venom issue is to get him into place for Madeline and Chasm to use him.
That makes sense.
So there's that.
Because in another throwback, like to the 90s, like along with Ben Reilly, Venom spends a lot of the time as like 90s Venom. You know, where he's like, I'm gonna eat your brain kind of Venom. You know?
Yeah, well, that's the weird thing about that. So the Venom that is in Dark Web is a specific time period Venom that isn't, it's like he's not connected to actual Venom. It's like Eddie with the symbiote, but not the brain part of Venom alien guy. So it's like it's a very specific version of Eddie. And then also Madeline screws with his brain. Yeah. And so the way he acts the whole time is really bananas and like he's villain Venom basically for the whole Dark Web saga. Yeah. So I guess that whole thing is just to get him into the right place, kind of outside of his typical storyline.
I feel like you could almost excise the Venom and definitely the Ms. Marvel issues from this and not notice.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing because when you read them, they do play a part. Yeah. And sort of in like really complex ways they're important. Yeah. But in like if you're going to describe the story point by point, they're not. Yeah. It's weird. It was a really weird experience to like travel through basically this whole section of the Marvel Universe and see all of these people at specific moments in their lives that I did not know was happening to them. Like all this stuff. Do you know anything about that Kings in Black thing?
I read a little bit of the Kings in Black, but not enough to explain it to you.
It was so crazy.
I read like the Namor stuff.
I read like 4 issues of Venom. Yeah. In this process, and I feel like it's like he's like I can't.
Are you into Venom now?
A little bit. Oh my gosh. Really weird.
Oh my gosh.
It's very complex.
Nobody saw that coming.
Anyway, so that's a whole thing. Yeah. Then in Spider-Man 14, I'm surprised this wasn't in the trade because this is like really like setting the scene. Spider-Man 14 is where we see Ben. Living kind of like a dumpy life with some woman.
Yes, yeah, he does have a woman that he's with like through all of it. I can't remember. But yeah.
Something. And she has red hair. Why do they always have red hair?
I don't know.
Anyway, so he's sad and I guess has gotten to this place where he's like empty. He doesn't seem to have any memories of any kind except what he's had post Spider-Man. I don't know. But he's like messed up. Yeah. And this woman is super devoted to him, and so together I think they're on the run from the police for some reason, and
it's a situation where she was kind of part of the company that was sort of villainous, but then they really developed a relationship and kind of broke away. So I think that's why she's so devoted, because she also has some guilt.
Got it. Okay, so the two of them are super isolated. Yeah. And Ben just goes off the deep end, and he's like, I am going to just go nuts, and what I'm going to do is find out a way, and I don't think he has a plan yet, but he wants to find a way to steal the memories that he feels Peter stole from him. Yes. So he wants to just have all of those back.
Which is not what happened. Peter was trying to help him and save him.
So I forget how he gets there, but somehow they get to Limbo. Yeah. And Madeline is there. Yeah. And this is where coming straight out of New Mutants is a bit of a rocky landing. Okay. Because there is so much about Ileana just like I tell you guys, she is going to be an amazing queen of limbo, and like she's not going to be a problem. And I know that she brought all these demons to Earth before. She's not going to do that this time.
Right. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
So Ben shows up and basically, I think, feeds into all of Madeline's very specific trauma.
Okay.
And is like, Peter Parker stole my memories.
Right.
I'm a clone of Peter Parker. And Madeline's like, I'm a clone of Jean.
Let's be evil.
We both want memories from our clones.
Yeah.
Ben wants to just basically become Peter because he's nothing. He's no one. He's so like he just wants to be Peter because he wants to be someone at all. Understandable. Fine. Madeline is dealing with having given birth to Cable, and then that's it. And never, like, he was basically stolen from her, and Jean got to raise him for several years until he was sent away
taken
or whatever.
To the future and turned into Josh Brolin.
Yes. And so what Madeline wants, she doesn't want to become anybody who she's not, but what she wants is those memories of raising Cable.
That seems fair.
Which is an interesting thing, because, like, I mean, I understand her wanting to have wanting to have had that experience.
Right.
It's kind of weird to want someone's memories of like it's not going to be like she then had raised him, you know? But I get it. So anyway, that's her motivation. She, as the Queen of Limbo, does some magic thing and creates this tree that has fruit that the fruit, if you get someone to eat the fruit of their own free will, you can eat their soul.
See, this was a moment that would have been helpful for me to know, because in Dark Web, it just comes to a point where all this stuff is going on, and Chasm is like, "Now eat this apple,"
and
I'm like, "The hell? What?"
Yes, it's very important. I'm really surprised that's not a part of it.
You do need to know.
So yeah, that's like the core of Chasm's story.
Yes.
Madeline is doing some stuff that intersects with X-Men stuff, but her main role is like, I'm going to help Chasm steal Peter Parker's soul by eating this apple, and meanwhile, I'm going to have kind of my own thing going, trying to get the memories from Jean.
Right. Why she needs Chasm, I'm not 100% sure.
I think
it's just sympathy.
I mean, it pops up a few times throughout that she's just like, this is all just me being generous to you. Like, I can just stop helping you if I felt like it. I think she's feeling. Okay, so going into this, when she first starts being the Queen of Limbo, a lot of how Ileana kind of talked her into doing it was that Madeline was feeling very adrift, and like she uses this phrase of being no one from nowhere or something like that.
Okay.
She's just feeling like she has nothing going on, and she's not a person. She's just a clone of a person. And so I think what's going on with her in this is that she has this position now, and she's like, I'm going to use it.
Right.
Like, this is an opportunity for me to be like, I'm this.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I am and the stuff that I can do. And so she just kind of goes for it. And I get the impression that she kind of gets wrapped up. She's like a major villain in this storyline, and I kind of feel like that's not really her intention.
Yeah. Well, so rolling into Dark Web number 1, this is the setup that we get for everybody. We get kind of a little refresher on Ben being in limbo, wanting, to be Peter, dreaming about being Peter. We see a little bit of the relationship with him and Madeline. On Earth, the Spidey gang is gathered to remember Harry Osborn, which the Osborns play kind of a peripheral role in this, and I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because like...
why Norman is really part of it, but...
Yeah. Well, here's the overall impression that I get of this entire storyline is that they just included anyone who was connected to the main characters.
Yeah.
Like, I think they just felt like they wanted to, like, for fun, maybe.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's why Ms. Marvel is in it. Because I think she, like, works with Peter now.
Right.
And, like, is in New York.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of how it happens. Like, she just sort of is, like, we
all
all know that she's here, so let's see what she's
just incorporate
doing.
her, yeah. So we see, there's a whole thing, too, where Maddie does need... we're on a first name, casual basis.
Maddie, yeah.
She does need Chasm to go to Krakoa because she can't go to Krakoa?
That's right, yes. So there's a whole thing,
right?
Yes, that is actually crucial to the to the story, because when Ileana gives her power over Limbo. Everybody's freaking out. And she's like, no, it's okay, because into the contract, we are writing this special clause. And in New Mutants, they never really say exactly what the clause is, as I recall.
Yeah.
But it turns out that the clause is Madeline can't do anything to Krakoa.
Right.
Like, there's nothing about Earth, humans, nothing. But she can't do anything that will harm Krakoa.
Right.
Not really mutants, just Krakoa itself.
Yeah. And so it, by and large, anything on Krakoa, she's just like, she can't
do it. And so that's right. She's using Ben to get what she needs from Krakoa.
Right.
Because she can't.
And
she could go there, but she can't go there with intent to hurt.
Right.
Something.
Right. And it's a long time before we figure out exactly what she wants. Or at least in my reading of it, it was a long time before we found out what she was looking for.
Yeah, it's pretty far in there.
But, so they also have Venom, and that's the reason why we want Venom as well. It's Christmas, so we're, it's kind of a Christmas theme in the background. And we see the X-Men in New York. And the X-Men that we see for the bulk of the story are Cyclops, Jean, Iceman, Firestar, Magic, and Havoc.
Yeah, which is really funny for, like, my experience of it, because I haven't really interacted with Jean and Cyclops in a long time.
Oh, okay.
Like, they pop in a lot, but they're, like, the grown-ups that everybody has to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I'm doing storylines, and then Cyclops will be like, don't do that, and then disappear.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience. And now he's like the main guy.
Well, it was kind of a fun it was like an unusual group. You got some classics. I mean, Iceman, Firestar, I was excited right away.
You gotta be excited about that.
So Dark Web kind of ends with things going out of control. Dark Web 1. Chasm kind of goes after Norman Osborn for some reason.
Yeah, Norman, who's like...
kind of good now.
Like a golden...
He's the Golden Goblin.
Yeah.
He was like making tech for Peter, and then ended up using some of it for himself, and now he's like
there's a whole
thing
about somebody like took his sins away.
Yeah, there was something.
But not his memory of his sins.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, just dropping me into all of this intense.
The big point at the end here is that Venom, who's supposed to be doing this job, Venom who's like out of control, Venom who's not.
He's on his way to becoming.
Yeah, like 90s Venom. I want to eat your brain, Venom.
Bedlam.
Okay.
Which, in the Venom that I read first, the 13, there's this moment where there are all the different Venoms of different time periods, and he starts to become Bedlam, like the red.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't become Bedlam yet. This is the whole thing. It's all like weird timeline
Yeah, you're going to have to read Venom. I see it happening. But basically, Venom goes rogue and wants to go after Spider-Man.
Yes.
So, the Amazing Spider-Man arc, which again, I read as one whole thing, also was not super strong to me. Like, the whole Peter's in limbo, but it's like... Or maybe it's New York, but it's like...
Oh, yeah. What's happening here is that Ben, who is crazy...
Yeah,
he's just completely irrational.
Yes.
But what he's decided to do is, because Madeline is helping him, she's going to let him use this piece of limbo. And he wants to get Peter to go to limbo where he can trap him and get him to eat this fruit.
Yeah.
So, like, from my reading of it, this is something that just kind of, like, pops in here and there. We're like, oh, what's Chasm doing with Peter?
Okay.
And that's what it is. Like, Chasm kidnaps J. Jonah Jameson,
right,
who apparently is friends with Spider-Man
Yeah,
now.
they are. They're on good terms.
And the reporter guy.
Robbie Robertson.
He kidnaps them to get Peter to go to limbo, because otherwise he wouldn't. Because I guess the whole thing is that Peter has to do everything... of his own volition.
Right.
He can't, like, kidnap him or whatever.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense, yeah.
Yes. So Peter goes there to save them. And the interesting thing, I think, about this whole Peter side is that so much of it is self-aware. Like, he just knows what Chasm is trying to do, like, the whole time. And he's just like... I'm not going to do that. Like, he's like, you have my guys, I'll come get them. But, like, whatever. He's just very, like, kind of above it all the whole time, which is kind of funny.
I feel like your reading of it maybe benefited the Peter half of it, and my reading of it benefited the X-Men.
Yes, I think that's probably true.
Because reading these 3 Spider-Mans in a row with this whole, like, it felt like just one big side quest.
It is a side quest. That's exactly what it is. And the main action
is the X-Men. So, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's kind of, like, kooky and, like, funny.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all that happens in the first one. We see Ms. Marvel briefly. Peter is confronted with Madeline for the first time and is, like, shocked with, oh my gosh, you're just Jean, So the first X-Men portion of Dark Web seems like it's mostly just catching people up to where the X-Men have been. Yes.
So there's not a lot of like moving the story forward, but it's basically just like, okay, so here's the deal. Ileana was the queen of Limbo. Remember, she was a kid who was kidnapped by Belasco or whatever his name is, who's a demon, who was like the king of Limbo. She deposed him, became queen. Now she's given the queenship to Madeline.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
So it's a real previously on X-Men.
It is a previously on X-Men. It really is. And then we sort of see what's going on with Madeline's side of the story, which is that she's just sort of unleashed the demons of Limbo on New York City.
Right.
So, like, for the rest of the run of Dark Web, the demons will be increasingly taking over New York City.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about this is that it's not really scary.
No,
it's sort of like kooky and funny.
Yeah.
Like all the demons are just sort of like goofy little and like there's this whole thing with like a mailbox that's like talking and like trying to eat people, and like all these objects in New York City are just coming to life and like chasing people around and stuff. And
the mailbox was the thing from the Venom Spider-Man Free Comic Book Day issue. Oh, so that's kind of where that ties in.
It ends with the mailbox.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean it's funny too because Forge shows up and he basically has a gun that turns things into like plants. Like he shoots it and like vines.
Well, do you know what he's doing?
I don't.
He's not turning things into plants. He is growing Krakoa.
Oh.
He has found a way, because like his whole thing now with like the tech stuff is very tied to Krakoa.
Okay.
I haven't followed his storyline very much, but it seems to be that like now that Krakoa is a thing, his mutant power is really connected to creating things out of that.
Yeah.
So he has this like epiphany where he's like, I see what's happening here, because as the demons are taking over New York, the mutants and the X-Men and stuff just start noticing that, weird, they're not going to the embassy, to the Krakoan embassy.
Right.
Like, they never touch it.
Oh, I see.
And so Forge figures out this is because Madeline made this promise about... So they start...
Well, that's cool then. I like that.
Yeah. So they start in all of the various X-Men mutant side of things. You see all the various mutants ushering humans into this... I don't know if it's actually an embassy, but it's basically an embassy. Yeah. Just this part of Krakoa.
The treehouse that they have in downtown,
They're just like, they're not coming in here, so all the humans just come in here. So they just start packing humans into the treehouse. Yeah. And that's like their solution for a good chunk of the storyline. And then Forge is like, here's what we're going to do.
Right.
I'm just going to make Krakoa be... all of these places.
Yeah.
And then he starts, when he's growing plants on the demons, he's making it so the demons can't do anything.
Right.
Because...
They
would have to break free of Krakoa.
Okay. All right. Well, that's clever. I like that. Well, Madeline separates the X-Men. She takes Cyclops, Jean, and Havoc all to Limbo, which is, one of her goals because obviously she wants Jean. But, Hilary, who does that leave on Earth? That leaves Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar.
What?
Oh, my gosh.
Now, the reason that Nick is excited about this is that Firestar was actually created in... Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
She was. And then ported over to the comics as others.
And now she's like a legit character. But that's the favorite
show
that Nick watched as a child, where it was Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar for some reason, all being buddies. And
do you know why
crime.
it was Firestar? Because they couldn't get the rights to Human Torch. So they made Firestar.
Oh, they had to have a woman.
They had to have
a
girl.
Darn it.
Listen. This is how you know that whoever was writing this, Zeb Wells, Gary Dugan, I don't know who wrote this particular one. This is how you know that they're my age. Because it's like
it's not just an accident.
No.
They pose. There's like a whole
pose.
a full page of like the three of them.
Yeah, it's almost like gratuitous that it's just like we're gonna do a little Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends section in this. And it's cool. Like they work well together, you see some of the personalities come out and Spider-Man says something about how they're amazing friends.
He says the words amazing friends. It is very fun.
Worth the price of admission.
Yeah, as soon as I read that I was like, Nick is going to die.
I was very excited about that. And that's pretty much all we get, but it was enough.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
It's not like they're a team now or something. That's just this moment. But it was really fun.
That was definitely a deep cut, and I appreciated it. Speaking of Across the Spider-Verse, in the many versions of things you see in the background, you do see the video game monster from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I was excited about that. Oh, that's right,
yeah.
But this takes us into Ms. Marvel, essentially.
Yes. So as you were saying, who that leaves on Earth, we've got Chasm, now has Peter in limbo.
Right.
In like this one part of limbo
Right.
where he's manipulating him. Madeline has her guys also in limbo, different part of limbo. So they're just the villains of the entire thing, but they're just doing their own thing.
Right.
And then demons are loose in New York. So we've
Right.
got 3 things happening.
Yeah.
The 2 main villains are occupied, and so everybody else who's left in New York is just dealing with the demons.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really, like, an end game. It's all just, like, demons are everywhere, and everybody who you know lives in New York is dealing with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's when a narrative splits between Limbo and Earth, that's pretty much, you don't really have a main plot on Earth anymore.
Which is where I think you get things like little vignettes of Ms. Marvel and
okay. Well, see,
Golden Goblin.
That makes more sense.
Like
that makes more sense.
Yes, because you're just sort of like, they're dealing with this residual damage, whatever. Ms. Marvel is also in New York.
Yeah.
And so, and is friends with Peter, I guess?
Yeah, there was a thing, she confronts Chasm at one point, and we don't see the outcome of that in the Spider-Man issue. He does some spell or whatever on her, and you don't see what happens. And then when we jump to the Ms. Marvel book, you get a little bit more.
Okay. But she's sort of just like dropping in on other people's fights.
Yeah.
And I think she's pretty cool. I mean, like, she's got a lot of moments where she's like, I'm an Avenger, like, I'm a legit superhero.
Yeah.
I can handle this. And then she does.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It doesn't move things along. She's just dealing with fringe problems, but it's a nice little window.
But I could see that, again, reading it in your order, how that would be a nice little break from the action to have like just some adventure and some cool superhero stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, this is all kind. I mean, we see Thomas Edison, which is like a half.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was
cockatiel,
crazy.
So
like somebody's made inventors into birds.
No.
What is that?
Somebody was trying to like clone inventors, and they used. I read this book. It was like a Ms. Marvel novel, and an inventor is like trying to make clones of these things, and like there's he has to use some different DNA, and he uses like bird DNA, and it makes these like weird bird inventor hybrids. I don't know, it's very kooky, but so Thomas Edison, the cockatiel clone, which is, it's another clone, so that's probably why they're using that character, comes in, and he's sort of like the nemesis that we see in the Ms. Marvel episodes.
Yeah.
But
and I think that the way that ties is just like people are sort of taking advantage of the chaos.
Yes, yeah. Like looters.
Yeah. But still it's not really actually connected to like the plot.
Yeah.
It's just happening at the same time.
Yeah. And Ms. Marvel kind of gets into the fray of everything with Limbo, confronts Chasm, and ends up being banished to Limbo herself.
Right, yes. So then we get back into Spider-Man.
Yes.
So Peter is in Limbo in this like kind of created section,
like a mock-up with
of
like
Limbo.
a Daily Bugle.
Yeah, for some reason, Chasm has decided that the way to approach this problem is to make a pretend New York City populated entirely by demons.
Right.
And Peter and J. Jonah Jameson, we don't really see
Robbie there, but he doesn't
really have a role.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like the demons just keep being like yelling at J. Jonah Jameson to yell at them, and like they're like, you're not playing the role right, and they just want them to enact life on Earth, I guess. And it's pretty funny. Like they keep screwing up their names and stuff, and like it's just.
And we're all pushing to kind of breaking Peter so that he'll eat this apple, right? I mean,
yes, and I think you just have to lean into Chasm being irrational because it doesn't actually make any sense.
No.
But it's not played serious
No,
at
I
all.
think it works pretty well.
Like, it's very, like, silly.
Yeah.
It's just a super silly storyline. And this is where you have Peter just being like, I'm not gonna eat the thing. Like, I don't know what you want me to do.
I'm not a part of your system.
So that's, like, just a weird situation.
Yeah.
Then we get back to the X-Men.
Yes. Well, the only other thing I think that happens in the Spider-Man 16 that's important is we see Madeline kind of deputizing Venom and Hallows Eve. Hallows Eve kind of becomes a character.
Well, she creates her.
Yes.
Because it's the woman who was with Chasm.
Yes. Yeah.
Whatever her name was. It'd be helpful if I knew her name.
Be, yeah.
But she's feeling very like, I can't contribute anything. Like, I'm, for whatever reason, I just need, my entire identity is wrapped up in making sure that Ben gets what he wants, but I can't really do anything. And so Madeline's like, I mean, I'm magic. And so she just makes her this magical character, which I think is a pretty interesting thing. She's Hallows Eve, and what she does is she'll just like, she has just a whole bunch of Halloween masks of like monsters.
Yeah.
And if she puts on one of the masks, she takes on that persona.
Yeah, it's kind of
so like she'll put on like a werewolf mask and then she's like this big scary werewolf. It's kind of an interesting
I think so too.
Concept.
Yeah. And she sends them off to, go to Krakoa to get the thing that she needs from the X-Men's like treehouse in New York.
Yes.
So that happens in the Spider-Man issues, and then we're back with the X-Men.
So we've got Forge and Sync, which I actually didn't know much about Sync, but Sync is...
It was cool.
Sync is like in charge of the treehouse, and he's sort of like the guy who's getting everybody to go into the treehouse and defending it and all this crap. He's the one who, when Madeline sends them to attack, he's like the guy who's defending the treehouse.
Yes.
Somehow they bypass Sync, but they get the specific core from Cerebro. Oh, it's because one of them is distracting him.
Yeah.
While the other one is sneaking into Cerebro.
Is getting the Cerebro. Yeah.
So whichever one it is, Hallows Eve maybe, gets the core, which is like a sphere.
Yeah.
And it's basically, it's the thing that they use when they're resurrecting a mutant.
Yeah.
This is the core of that person.
Yeah.
And so they get the one for Jean.
Yeah.
Because Madeline has decided that this is the way. She's just going to... She doesn't want to see pictures. She doesn't want whatever. She wants to have the memories.
It's basically like a boot drive for an old computer.
It is exactly that. It's like if Jean were to die right now, this would be Jean.
This would be Jean, yes.
So she steals it. She's achieved the thing that she set out to do.
Yes.
But it's not what she wants.
Right.
Because it's a computer.
Right.
Like... I guess if it went into a body, then it would be Jean, but it's not Jean.
Right.
Right now, she doesn't really get to experience it. She's just like seeing these images or whatever.
It's like basically just like narration. She doesn't
Jean
want loves
that.
Cable.
Yeah.
Jean gives Cable back.
She wants to feel it, and so she kind of goes a little batty. With that, like she thought she had it and she didn't. She's got Scott and Havoc. Trapped in a dungeon.
Yeah.
I don't super know why. I guess just to get them out of the way.
She's keeping them out of the way, but it's funny because
she's put Havoc in this ridiculous outfit.
Little slinky, very revealing outfit.
You've read more of the two of them. Is that like a thing?
I think she puts him in an outfit that is like a typically what you would put a female character in, because it's just like tight briefs.
Yeah,
and
it's
I think that's
super slinky.
Yeah.
And actually later she kind of goes into, this is probably what it is, because later she sort of inhabits the Goblin Queen persona that she sort of had from the past, and it's a very similar outfit. So I feel like maybe she put him in her Goblin Queen outfit.
The funniest,
which I wasn't sure what was happening, but that was funny.
The funniest thing to me, though, is like she has Cyclops there, and she has his visor off, and she just has a row
of puppies. I forgot about that.
She's got puppies around him, so he can't open his eyes without killing the puppies.
Listen, it's called Dark Web, and it seems like it's going to be this like intense thing, but it's so goofy and silly.
Goofy. It is.
You know, like I couldn't quite settle into it, but I loved that. That was so funny. Like he was like, "Come on, Madeline, give me my visor back." And she's like, "Open your eyes. I'm not. You could just kill some puppies. Who cares?"
Yeah.
It just every time you pop back to see Cyclops, he's just surrounded by like this
row of puppies,
just like hanging. They're just hanging. They're like on harnesses, like, just hanging.
Yeah.
They don't seem sad.
No,
they're just living their lives, being puppies surrounding his face.
We're kind of learning as Scott and Alex talk that Alex is kind of like, I'm over being an X-Men. Like he doesn't like, he's fine helping out, but he doesn't like have his identity at the team. Madeline's put Magic and Jean into
sort of stasis. They're like frozen.
Yes, but they're also like, they're trapped in this dream world where the point is to get Jean to use the Cerebro drive to give freely these memories. She's trying to trick her into it.
She's trying to trick her into giving her the memories that she couldn't get from the drive.
Yes, and we see little snippets of Sinister, we see Apocalypse, and it's like little girl Magic, little girl Jean going through this big castle.
That's right, I forgot about that.
And Jean is finally like, wait a minute. And she kind of snaps out of it and confronts Madeline, and that's where this issue ends.
Okay, so now we get back into the Venom arc.
And there's a whole thing where Venom was trying to like save his son or something, which is not...
This is why I need to go back, because I didn't know this was where I was going, but I need to understand the Venom storyline. I think I'm going to have to read some.
What a day.
It's happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now I don't super know why this is a part of this arc. But what happens is, yeah, like there was a thing apparently in the past with Eddie's son. And Eddie's son is like somehow also connected to Venom.
Yes. Nothing about I'm kind of with you. Because nothing about the Venom stuff really made sense to me. Like, I think I'd have a handle on it, and then I'd be like, what is this? Yeah. Is this Eddie's dad? Who is this? Who are we talking about?
Well, that's why I can help you there once we kind of get into this a little bit.
Okay.
But we start the issue sort of from his son's perspective, basically. And this might be to kind of give Ms. Marvel something to do because he's a kid and that plays into her being young and all that kind of stuff. But apparently he's trying, people who know Venom are going to be like, what are you talking about? This is all wrong. But my interpretation from these snippets is that he had a son who is like sort of part symbiote, I guess.
Yeah.
Like maybe because they were connected when he had the son. I don't know how the son came into being.
Okay.
But so they have like an estranged relationship, but I guess the son is connected to some organization as well that is like helping him be a symbiote.
Okay.
When he's connected to a symbiote, it changes the symbiote and makes it evolve into something more.
Okay. All right.
And so that's a thing.
Okay.
And also he's trying to find Eddie, who I think is trapped in this garden with all the other Eddies.
Right.
Except for this one that Madeline got.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't tell you. He was trapped in the garden. In the very first one, Eddie is trapped in this garden with all of the other Eddies, and none of the Eddies can go anywhere except the garden. They're stuck there. But because of the Kings in Black thing, Eddie can connect his consciousness to any symbiote essence anywhere in the universe. And anywhere in time.
A lot.
Anywhere in time. And so he does, and he like goes into this weird alternate universe, and then he like gets some of the symbiote, he makes it big, he travels back, it's this whole thing.
This to me, like, I think the Venom stuff is the reason why I feel like it could be cut out is because there's a lot of backstory with Spider-Man, there's a lot of backstory with the X-Men, but you kind of don't need it to get what's going on. Yeah. The Venom stuff to me is just like WTF. Like every time we get there, I'm like, what? There's so many levels to this. Exactly. I don't understand.
I sort of, like, I was super interested, so maybe that's what
they're
going for. Like, but as like a cohesive storyline thing, they could have just done what they needed to do in Venom's title to get him to this place and have him be like Madeline's lackey for whatever reason.
And just give us a little, why is Venom doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
Venom
like we don't need to see, like, I don't know why his son is showing up and like all of this stuff. Like, it was very interesting, but I don't think necessary.
Yeah. For dark
web.
Chasm steals Venom's memory at some point. That's a thing that happens in this.
Is it Chasm? I thought it was Madeline. I think Madeline.
Does she? No, I thought Chasm took them so that he could have some memories.
Oh, maybe. Did Madeline give them to him?
Maybe that's how it went down. Yeah,
because toward the end, Madeline is talking about how she had messed with his mind.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that must be it.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway,
a lot.
That's Venom, whatever.
Yes. And we bounce back to the Spider-Man title.
So back to the Spider-Man title where they're in limbo. Spider-Man, Peter, and J. Jonah Jameson, and Robbie Robertson are there.
Yeah.
Peter kind of like breaks them loose of the demons in the fake Daily Bugle and is like, okay, run. I don't know. He thinks there's an exit somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He These demons are so funny. Peter convinces the demons that they're allowed to go take over New York.
Yes.
And so he like gets them to go. And so like he just tricks them, I guess. And so he's like, you go take over New York.
Crafty.
And then he has J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie Robertson follow them.
Right.
So he's like, they're going to get out. So you just go wherever they go. Meanwhile, he rescues one demon. Peter rescues a demon from another demon. And that demon decides that he is now devoted to Peter and kind of follows him around. Somehow he gets a piece of symbiote. I'm not sure how that happens. And becomes like a version of Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah.
And is just sort of like this kooky, like sidekick guy who follows him around for the remainder of the story.
I didn't hate it.
He calls himself Wreck Rap.
Yes.
Just Parker backwards. Yes. The name thing is, it's mostly within the Spider-Man section of the story, but it's just a thing throughout that with like the demons saying the wrong names and like all of that is just a funny thing. That's basically it.
For the
I mean,
Spider-Man
they
stuff,
escape.
that's kind of,
they escape limbo and are now in New York City with Peter. He just sends J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie Robertson home. He's just like, just get out of here. Just go. And then I'm going to take care of this. And he teams up with Ms. Marvel, I think, at this point.
Yes, and that takes us into the Ms. Marvel book, where she has been in limbo. Like, she was sent to limbo, and she starts,
Just to get her out of the way.
Just to get her out of the way. And so is Edison is also... No, Edison's not there. Is he? No. The limbo invasion is messing with Edison's cybernetic implant. So that's like a thing going on with, like, our bird clone man. Ms. Marvel's in limbo, like, tearing it up, fighting, and finally she gets sent back, and she's trying to find Edison... And we get a big rumble, and all of a sudden, spider bots start showing up. And you know how I love me some spider bots.
Spider bots.
So I was excited to see that. And finally, we get Miles Morales. And he shows up, and they have a big fight with all these limbo monsters. The Mosque has turned into a giant limbo monster.
Yeah, the Mosque. And it's a fun little thing because you get to see the different ways. It feels like a Squirrel Girl moment.
Yeah.
Because... Okay. I think Ms. Marvel and maybe Miles, I don't know Miles that well, have kind of a different take as a different generation of superhero.
Yeah.
Where they aren't as much like punch, just take it down.
Yeah.
So they end up reasoning with the Mosque, the Mosque that has been taken over by a demon. And they're just like, listen, I think you just feel like you're not being heard. And we'll just have a conversation and we'll work it out. And they do. They work it out. They figure out the Mosque's name and stuff, and like they become friends. And so that's basically how that whole thing resolves.
Yes.
And they're just like floating around in a moving mosque.
Yeah.
And like the people who are in, like the imam and stuff are in there, and they're just like, we're just gonna get along.
Yeah. And she and Miles have a nice little moment, and then we see Bruno, who's from the Ms. Marvel comics.
Yeah, I see Bruno.
Or from the show, if you saw the show. So she and Bruno have a little bit of a vibe. Seems like maybe we're heading towards some romance there. And that's pretty much it for Ms. Marvel's, like, portion of it.
Which, again, is just like, I'm in New York, and this is happening, so here's my story.
Yes. And we're back to Venom, and this is where the whole, like, father thing comes in. Who's this red symbiote who...
The red... Which one? There's several. The big red one?
Yeah, the big
red one. Okay. Venom, who Madeline asked to help, like the Venom who's been in this whole time, Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
That's the red guy. He develops into Bedlam.
Okay.
I think in this, it must
15.
Be in this,
okay.
In this issue. I'm not sure exactly when it happens, but it's like the whole Venom story seems to be about him becoming different versions of himself throughout his lifetime.
Yeah.
And then we see those versions because time is weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the moment where he becomes Bedlam because...
Okay, well that makes more sense to me then.
She took all of his Eddie-ness.
Okay.
And he's not connected with the Venom symbiote for some reason, like with the brain, and that's screwing with him. And so he's like... Bedlam ends up on a similar trajectory as Chasm in this.
Yeah.
Because Chasm is looking for his Peter memories because he is empty. And Bedlam now, Venom who became Bedlam.
Okay.
He became Bedlam because he's lost the connection to the Venom symbiote and feels empty. And so he's going nuts, and his only trajectory now is to find the symbiote. And so that's why he's going after people and being like, give me myself or whatever it is.
Well, so then that kind of makes sense because he's on sort of a parallel journey with Chasm.
Yes.
You know, so I didn't really put that together because of all of that. So that does make a lot of sense to me. That helps. This one also kind of brings in, we see Eddie's son Dylan. We also see Normie Osborn, who is a son of the Harry Osborn, who was a clone of the original Harry Osborn.
So hang on. Do you think they just took like a Marvel concordance and were like, let's find the clones that have ever been, and we're just going to throw them all in
here? So that
here?
kind of ties in Golden Goblin stuff, and then Ms. Marvel shows up because they're teenagers. Because
they're teenagers,
you got to have that. So that all kind of comes out.
I like the stuff with Ms. Marvel that I like particularly in this is that she comes in and it feels very much like she's coming in out of nowhere and she's not going to understand the situation and like she's just going to do all these dumb things. And the the Dylan, who's Venom now.
Yeah.
And also multiple versions of Venom.
Something
and there's
like that.
something with a
I
sword. I don't know.
I don't know. You got to read it.
So they're fighting Bedlam. She comes in and she's like, stop. I'm not going to let you kill this guy. And she throws Bedlam off into the distance.
Yeah.
And they're like, you idiot. Now he's going to go like cause damage. And she's like, listen. I threw him into the Hudson. It's going to take him some time to swim to shore. I'm going to meet him there. I'm going to deal with him. She like has this whole plan. Yeah. And like it seems like she's just dropping in and doesn't know what she's doing. But she has it all worked out. And is like taking care of business. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, I agree. That pretty much takes us to the final X-Men thing where we have, like, on Earth, we see Forge and we see Sync, like, continuing to, save people and round things up and everything. Jean and Maddie have a confrontation, and I feel like this is the coolest thing that happens in this.
Yeah, this is a really cool moment. So Jean has broken free of the like the
little mindscape.
The mindscape where she's a little girl. She's like, oh right, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
And basically from this moment on, she's in control of the situation.
Yes. Well, yeah, like Maddie starts a fight with her and Jean's like, oh, we're really gonna do this? Okay, well then.
Yeah.
It's
like she takes a couple minutes to kind of like talk to her. But Maddie's not having it. And Maddie is still trying to steal memories from Jean.
Yeah.
And she's just like locked in, like, I have to steal these. That's the way that I'm going to solve my problem. And Jean is like, I'm going to shut this down. Like, this is just crazy. It doesn't seem like it's taking the demon stuff too seriously. Like they all seem to sort of be like, that's a problem, we'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Something I also like, how the X-Men and the mutants just sort of seem to be in control of whatever situation they're in.
True.
Because like even when they're trapped, when Scott and Alex are trapped in the dungeon.
Yeah.
They're just sort of like biding their time. They're not like, we have to get out of here to solve this problem.
They're just chatting.
Yeah, they're just kind of fine with whatever happens.
Scott and the puppies
is just sort of waiting.
Outfit.
And when he's just like, oh, are we fighting? Okay, I got this.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But so Jean takes off the gloves.
Yeah.
And it's not even a contest.
No.
And it's just pretty cool to see her. Like it doesn't feel gratuitous. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're showing off Jean.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Is that this is not a problem for Jean.
Right.
She's just going to handle it.
Yeah.
And so she does. And she just takes down Maddie.
Yeah. In stark contrast to everything that's happened in the animated series up to this point.
Yeah. She just
where
handles
Jean's like,
it.
I'm going to use my power and then pass out.
I'm so tired. Oh, I have a nosebleed or whatever. So yeah, she just handles it.
Yep.
Easy peasy. She releases Illyana eventually, but like not until she's sort of handled the situation. And when she releases her, she's like, okay, so Madeline has calmed down. I got you here. I'm surrendering.
Yeah.
And Maddie's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And turns out Jean's just like, if you want the memories, I'm a, telepath.
Right, like I can help you with that. Yeah.
I'll give you the memories. She says like, me giving them to you is not taking them from me. Like, this is fine. And so she just gives her the memories that she wanted of raising Cable and like all of that. And she is happy. And it seems to sort of transform her a little bit to have those memories now be a part of Madeline.
Yeah.
Sort of seems to like center her and like make like I don't think it's just that she got what she wanted and now she doesn't have to fight anymore. It seems to really kind of give her
it's grounded her a little bit. Yeah.
Some sort of like a piece that she was missing kind of a thing. So that's basically resolved. Like Jean and Maddie are friends now.
Yeah.
And
kind of some of the rest of the X-Men.
Scott and I guess maybe they escaped. I think maybe they escaped. But Scott and Alex just walk into the room.
Yeah.
And Scott has the puppies.
Yeah.
He's like, it took a little longer because I wanted to save these guys.
Right.
And so he has just like all these puppies on leashes and brings them in. Illyana is all about that. She wants to keep the puppies.
Yeah.
And everything's happy. Like, we're all good.
Yeah.
All is good. However,
yes,
still got to deal with Chasm.
You're right.
Still got to deal with the demons.
Yes. So here's the wild thing. Next, on your reading order, we roll into Amazing Spider-Man number 18. And in Amazing Spider-Man number 18, we start with kind of, here's what's going on with the X-Men. And so we find out that they've called a truce with Madeline. Madeline's going to end the invasion. Things are fine with the X-Men. Keep in mind, I haven't even started the X-Men arc in this.
Oh, my word!
And so I was like, what? Like, how did that happen?
Oh, wow, okay.
And so I read this whole issue and then go into the X-Men stuff, and it seems like that wouldn't work, but it actually kind of did. Because, like, it's not that, like
it's
really...
a flashback, sort of?
Well, it's just like, all right, here's how we get... It's kind of Columbo-esque. Like, you know the ending, and now we're like, how do we get there? And then it dives into the X-Men. So I felt like that actually worked pretty well for me.
That's funny.
But anyway, in this, we have the truth. We have Peter and Rec Rap coming and teaming up. Madeline...
Peter is just so funny, because he just lets him... He just lets him tag along. Like, he'll just say something and Rec Rap will be like, and I'm doing it too. And Peter's just like, yep. Okay, that's fine.
So all this coming out that, like, Madeline and the X-Men have kind of made amends, well, like, that's not going to work for Chasm. And so Hallows' Eve turns on Madeline. She takes the scepter, she gives it to Chasm, making him the king of Limbo now, which is, not great.
And he gets all, like, bulked up and cool.
Yeah. And so we have this cool moment where, like, Madeline and the X-Men kind of come to Peter and his, like, ragtag group of, like, people. And it's like, all right, now we got to team up against Chasm. And that's kind of what they do.
And it's Peter this whole time. Like, as I said, I haven't read a lot of Spider-Man, but I always get the impression that he's just sort of a jolly type of a character.
Yeah.
The whole time in this, I feel like he's the one who's just over it.
Yeah.
Like, everyone else
it's true.
is, like, dealing with the thing, and he's just like, I mean, I guess we're on the same side, but also Madeline caused 100% of this, and, like, I don't even know what's happening. And so he's just sort of like, fine, we'll team up, I guess, whatever. Yeah. Which I think is a funny thing for that character.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. It's definitely different.
So, yes, now Chasm is the king of Limbo and has control of all of the demons. Mm-hmm. And he basically is like, okay, Madeline was keeping you a little reined in.
Yeah.
I'm letting you loose.
Yeah.
We're taking over Earth. It's going to be our thing.
That's right. Foot off the brake. Let's do it.
Yeah. So he's kind of done even with the Peter stuff. He's just like, this is me. Well, I'm this.
He was searching for a purpose. He was searching for an identity, and he's got it.
Which is what Madeline was doing, why she became the queen of Limbo.
I know.
He just took it from her.
Yeah. In Venom, the fight keeps going, and Madeline pulls Bedlam into Limbo. So, like, he's tossed into Limbo
So
now.
Bedlam had been sort of, like, doing his own thing after he became Bedlam. He just kind of got cut loose. And, Madeline is like, you're connected to me. I'm summoning you now.
I just want to tell you that in my notes, I consistently referred to Bedlam as Venom's dad, because I did not understand what was happening.
Because Dylan is Venom.
Right. It's so,
and it's his dad. Because that's probably why, because he keeps calling him dad.
He does.
But he's talking about Eddie.
I was like, I guess this is a multi-generational story now. I don't know what's happening. So anyway,
it's just Eddie.
It's just Eddie.
Okay. It's just Eddie unhinged.
Well, that makes more sense. So then we have a whole big showdown in the Venom title with Chasm's army, and that brings us to the finale. We're up to the Dark Web finale.
This is another example of the mutants just being in control of the situation, because there's a couple moments where they're sort of trying to figure out a little bit of a more finessey solution to the problem, and Cyclops will just sort of be in the background and being like, I'm just gonna, you just do your thing. This isn't. And then finally they decide that they just have to, like, go to war with Chasm and the demons. Yeah. And Cyclops is like, okay, we're fighting, I got this. And he just, like, takes over.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's like, you go over there, you go over there. We're doing this formation, we're going to go through here. And he's, like, taking control of the situation. And that was fun. I liked seeing him.
No, it's a cool showcase for the X-Men. In the finale, we basically see that, Chasm, King Chasm, and Hallows' Eve are just kind of, like, living it up in the limbo portion of the city. And to your earlier point of how Spider-Man is the one who's kind of, like, the darker character in this, which is weird. We have this whole thing where Jean has made peace with Madeline, but Peter is like, we just need to take Ben out. We just need to done with this. I'm done with this. Gloves off. Yes. Which is weird.
It's a weird
for
thing.
Spider-Man, and I think that's kind of cool. We have this huge epic battle in there.
But at the same time, it's so interesting in all of this, because, like, it feels like the enemies are just completely overwhelming, because they have the city. The demons have New York City. Yeah. But at the same time, it just doesn't feel like there's danger.
Yeah.
Of any kind.
Yeah.
It just feels like It's just a matter of time until they sweep this all up.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it feels that way.
Yeah.
But it does.
Well, it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of violence or anything happening. It's like, you know, basically how you react when there's a parade going through town. Just get out of the way. There's a lot of noise. You know.
Chasm is on the street fighting someone. I don't know. And he's winning.
Yeah.
And then from behind him, someone's like, not so fast or something, has some line.
Yeah.
And he turns around and it's Ms. Marvel and Golden Goblin. And they're like, we're going to take care of this. And he was like, oh, thank goodness. From the way you came in, I thought it was going to be the Avengers. And it's just that funny little thing.
No, it's a good moment. Well, the big fight is coming down. And again, going back to the mutants being in charge, Madeline kind of confronts the demons of Limbo and is just like, hey, he's holding a stick. I'm Madeline Pryor.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's in charge. And they're like, oh, that's right. Okay, that's right. I remember now.
Now, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because the reason that there is a Queen of Limbo
Yeah.
is that we didn't talk anything about this and we don't have to get into the weeds, but also a part of the dark web is all of this
Oh, Black Cat and Mary Jane.
Yeah, Mary Jane.
So I didn't read any of that because it's not in the collection.
It is not necessary, but it is very interesting.
Oh, okay.
Because basically what happens is Black Cat and Mary Jane are kidnapped by Belasco.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Who was the king of Limbo.
Right.
And he wants them to steal his sword back because what happened was Belasco had a sword.
Yeah.
Had a soul sword.
Yeah.
And if you have a soul sword, you rule Limbo.
Okay.
That's apparently the thing.
Okay.
It was taken away by the elder gods sometime in the past.
All right.
That's a whole thing, so they have to go find it.
Okay.
But the point is, Ileana, when she was a child, forged a soul sword and deposed Belasco.
Yes.
She took her soul sword and helped, I don't remember how exactly it happened, but Madeline has a soul sword, which is like a scythe kind of a thing.
Yes.
So she rules Limbo.
Right.
Chasm steals the soul sword.
Right.
So he's the king of Limbo.
Yeah.
So it's like this soul sword thing has this very long history of being connected to ruling Limbo.
Right.
So when Madeline comes and is like, that soul sword doesn't matter. That's kind of revolutionary in like the history of Limbo.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing for that to happen within this storyline.
The dark web,
but yeah, she basically, what you said, she's just like, yeah, he's got my soul sword, but like, I'm the Goblin Queen, baby.
Yeah.
And she like, they just like go with her.
Right. Which is cool. I mean, it's a cool moment. So Spidey is after this, when everything's all is said and done, Spidey and the X-Men are going to like take Chasm into custody, and Madeline steps in and is like, no. Mm-hmm. He's a citizen of Limbo. Like, that's up to me, not you. Yeah. And they're like,
Yeah, and she calls him a citizen of Limbo because he is this broken person.
Right.
And so then this is all kind of in the wrap up now.
Yeah.
Because they've defeated Chasm. She takes the soul sword back, even though she doesn't apparently need it. But like that takes his power away because he was stronger. And they've basically captured him. And now they're cleaning the streets. Like the demons are going away. Yes. Everything is fine. And
our epilogue pushes us to spring. So like some time has passed.
Yeah. So some time has passed. And Madeline is now sort of acting the way I anticipated her acting before all of this happened.
Chasm just came and pushed all the buttons. He
pushed
hit
all the
every
wrong
one
buttons.
of her triggers, and that's,
Which it took me some time to kind of get over that, because like going straight into that from the New Mutants storyline was just weird, because she just like went back on everything that was the trajectory of her character. Yeah. But it makes sense if you think of it that way. That he was just pushing all the
right
buttons.
place, right time. Yep.
But now she's like, okay, so Queen of Limbo, got it. I'm going to make Limbo into something. Yeah. Like, I'm not just going to be this weird sideline, otherworld thing. And she has somehow negotiated with the U.S. government, and there is now a Limbo embassy in New York City.
Yeah, the taxes on that. I can't even imagine.
She's got to have some
Where are they going to park?
She's got to have a deal.
Doesn't make any sense.
And so now, like, her mission in life is to find people like Chasm and maybe Eddie, I don't know. Yeah. Like people who are broken and who like feel like they don't have any place, and she's going to give them a home
In limbo. Yes. We have a thing where Peter comes to like visit Ben in the place where he's being held, and they pretty much just don't have any space for each other. There's no reconciliation between the two of them. It's not like, I understand what you were doing and I understand. It's just kind of like, I don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
Good. I don't want to be around.
Peter's trying to reach out.
He is, but like not really. Yeah. I don't think.
I mean,
you know
I
what
think he'd be fine if he didn't exist. But I think as part of his like nice guy persona, he comes and visits.
Yeah.
And is like, you want to be friends? No, okay.
And we see that Alex has kind of detached from the X-Men and is like, I don't know if he's like the X-Men liaison to Limbo or whatever, but he's in Limbo with Madeline now. Like that's his thing, which is interesting. And we kind of end on a sort of peace for now.
Yeah.
Moment.
Yeah, I guess the whole story is basically one of people who don't feel like they're in the place where they should be getting to that place.
Yeah.
Because Madeline had to figure out how to be the Queen of Limbo in a way that felt fulfilling to her. Yeah. And now she's there. Alex the whole time has been like, you know, I feel like I need to do something meaningful like the X-Men do, but I don't feel like it's my place. And I think that makes sense with his whole weird relationship with Scott and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he finds a place. I feel like it's a lot of that kind of thing where like we go through this whole super long, goofy, convoluted thing, and it's really just about people finding where they want to be.
Yeah.
To have meaning.
I agree. Listen, I don't know that this has ever happened before. I feel like usually we'll pick something like this, we'll go through it, and the more we talk about it, the more that it kind of collapses under its own weight. Yeah. I think the opposite has happened here. Because I enjoyed this quite a bit. But the more we talk about it, the more I see like the depth and the complexity, and like I like it more now than when we started.
I definitely do. Like,
really?
Listen.
Okay.
I did not enjoy reading this. I thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't, and I think it might be the order in which I read it.
Yeah.
Made it really hard to settle into a vibe.
Yes. Yes.
So like everything I read, I was just like, and this is happening, I guess. And like it just didn't feel, it wasn't enjoyable. But I think the order, I'm glad I read it in that order because I feel like I have a really good grasp of what was going on.
I think so. I think that's true. I mean, you put together a lot of things that like didn't quite click for me. Yeah. But I think being able to read through the whole Spider-Man arc, being able to read through the whole X-Men arc made the impacts of each of those stronger. And it wasn't, because they're tonally and visually so different that like issue this, issue that, issue this, issue that, I feel like would be a very like frenetic kind of way to do it. And
it's such a convoluted story, and it's so goofy. The tone is so goofy.
And there's also varying stages of resolution. You know, characters resolve their storylines at different times, and like what you thought the whole thing was about is not what it's really about.
Yeah.
And like once you get to the end and kind of look back on it, things click into place. But yes, I think this is maybe the one and only time where we've talked through something like this, and I ended higher than I started.
Well, I definitely did. Like, I really enjoy talking about all of the complexities and, like, figuring it all out, and I think it's really interesting how it affected the different characters differently and stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, like, it's sort of how I felt with my, like, English degree. Like, I didn't like having to like read all the stuff, but I like knowing the stuff, you know? Yeah. Like it's nice to like have that in my brain. I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
I would recommend it, honestly. I mean, I think there's definitely a learning curve. Like if you jumped in having not read, I mean, I read all the Spider-Man, you read all the New Mutants, just like by accident, you know, like that's just kind of how it happened. But I don't know that you could go into it totally blind, but I think you could with a lot of it and just kind of accept stuff has happened to get us here.
Stuff has happened and now we are here.
But I think it's pretty successful as a Spider-Man story, and I think it is maybe even more successful as an X-Men story, really.
Yeah, I like it. And I like, they do a lot of work with Madeline and people copping to all the crap that they put her through. Yeah. Like, you get a lot of attention to, like, I mean, Sinister, obviously, like, creating her to screw with everything.
Right.
And then discarding her. And now he's like one of the leaders of Krakoa. And like that screws with her brain and all that stuff.
Yeah, because like, I mean, he's the lead in Hellions, for example.
Yeah.
So.
And you get some, like while Scott and Alex are in the dungeon, you get them copping to like their role in like, screwing her over.
For sure.
And like Jean just gives her all of the stuff that she wants and is like, this all sucks and I'm going to help you.
Yep.
So I like that they kind of rehabilitate that character.
Yeah.
Even while they like position her as the ultimate villain.
Yeah. I think like coming out of it, like I'm more interested to read what happens like with Limbo and like the Limbo Embassy on Earth and stuff like that than I am to read the next like Spider-Man issue, which is not what I expected.
Yeah, that's true.
And it sounds like you're going to go back and read Venom, which
I think I'm going to read Venom.
That's insane.
Never saw
that's
that
insane.
coming.
Yeah.
It's crazy. If anybody has a suggestion of where I should start with Venom,
that's true.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea.
The collection, the paperback that I read, came out in May of 2023. Lots of authors and artists involved, but the primary authors here include Gary Dugan on X-Men, Zeb Wells on Spider-Man, Sabir Pirzada on Ms. Marvel, Al Ewing on Venom, with art by John Romita Jr., Adam Kubert, Ed McGuinness, Brian Hitch, Rod Reis, and more. So a lot of creativity behind this. You can get the paperback or you can read it, on the Marvel app if that's what you have. But I say 2 thumbs up. I had a good time with it. I had a better time with it now.
In hindsight, I'm good with it.
I also think like if you listen to this without reading it, I don't really think it ruins it to go back and read it now because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
That to see it all play out, I think
definitely. We didn't cover everything.
We did not cover everything.
If you can believe it, we didn't
true.
cover everything.
We glazed over some of the smaller things, but I had a good time.
Yeah, all right. Well, next time we're going to be covering the animated series again. We're going to do Xavier Remembers and Courage.
Okay.
I don't remember anything about those, but I'm sure they're fun.
Well, Xavier does.
He remembers. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, This Endorian Life, and 9021 Here We Go. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, and share this show wherever you get your podcasts.